Hello, welcome back to Psalms today, and today we are looking at Psalm 7. Psalm 7. So in Psalm 7, David is again in trouble. The trouble specifically, as it tells us right at the beginning, is coming from the words of Cush, a Benjaminite. Now, I don't know what it's like to be criticized and slandered by a Benjaminite, particularly, but obviously it wasn't pleasant. And so David in this psalm is crying out to the Lord for rescue, for deliverance. Quite strong terms, like you see here, verse 1, save me from all my pursuers, deliver me, lest like a lion they tear my soul apart, rending it in pieces with none to deliver. So, serious situation. And in the middle of the psalm, you've kind of got a turning point where he makes his plea for justice, where he's really saying, Lord, I'm innocent. And so would you judge, please, this whole situation? You find that kind of plea in verses 8, 9, 10, right in the center of the psalm. But I want you to notice one thing as we're looking at it, which is an interesting thing to note as we read it today, and then I'm going to focus us in on one point of application, which can also be encouraging to us. So, verse 1, line 1, how does this psalm begin? He says, O Lord my God, in you do I take refuge. O Lord my God, in you do I take refuge. Now, before we've seen how terminology used early on can be brought back later on in a psalm to give a sense of completion. Here we're noticing how a concept in line 1 is going to be used again in the final line, almost like an inclusio, like brackets, to hold the whole thing together. So he's saying, O Lord my God, in you do I take refuge. And then when you drop down to the very last line, in verse 17, he says, I will sing praise to the name of the Lord, the Most High. What's the connection? Remember verse 1, I take refuge in the Lord my God, the Lord who is the Most High. If you like the names of God, that's an interesting study to go after. This would be Elyon. So not El Elyon, God Most High, but Yahweh Elyon, the Lord Most High. And so it's really speaking of how God is the ultimate, the highest, the ultimate authority, the one who is over all. There is no one, there is no God, there is no other that comes anywhere near to him. And so I think that works quite interestingly with the first line, take refuge in you, because no one else can get near to you, so I'm safe if I'm in you. That Elyon idea, if you want to jump somewhere else, a very famous psalm, Psalm 91, verse 1, says, He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, Elyon, will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. That's Shaddai. That's kind of an image of a sort of mountain protection, really solid and safe. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Now, that's Psalm 91. Enjoy that, but we're doing Psalm 7 right now. And so he begins, going to take refuge in you, O Lord my God, and then he finishes, I will sing praise to the name of the Lord, the Most High. The Lord is the one in whom we can take refuge, no matter what is coming against us, because he is the Most High God. Now, what's the point of application? I want you to notice these verses here, just before the end. David is crying out in the face of injustice and asking God to do something about it, but he gives us quite an interesting insight in terms of how God might do that. How might God answer the prayer for justice, and how might God work out this whole issue of dealing with those who are setting themselves up against God and against God's people? Well, look at verse 14. Behold, the wicked man conceives evil, is pregnant with mischief, and gives birth to lies. He makes a pit, digging it out, and falls into the hole that he has made. His mischief returns upon his own head, and on his own skull his violence descends. Often when we're in a difficult situation, we will cry out to God to do something about, especially when we've got people antagonistically working against God's plans, God's purposes, the church, whatever it is. When there's something sinister and evil at work against us, we cry out to God. And I don't know about you, but sometimes we sort of maybe think lightning, God, do something direct. often this is the way it works. Evil returns on its own head. It eats itself up. It makes a pit and digs it out and falls into a hole that it has made. You can go back through history, even the last century, and you can look at the great tyrannies or the sort of totalitarian regimes. They seem to implode. They seem to devour themselves. They're not able to sustain, and maybe this is God's justice working out. Maybe that's a point of application for us. We come to the one who is most high, and we cry out to him to put things right in a world where things are really broken and maybe even sinister and evil. And maybe the way God chooses to put things right, like is described here in Psalm 7, is for that evil to eat itself, to destroy itself. Anyway, Psalm 7 has got a lot more in it. Please take a look, have a read, and then share whatever stands out to you in the comments below this video, and then with others in whatever way you can. Let's share God's word with one another and be encouraged.